The structure of EdVisions Co-op, we have member schools that have service contracts. So a school board, like the Minnesota New Country School Board, will contract with EdVisions for X number of teachers at X amount of dollars. And then in return, we guarantee the MNCS board that we're going to meet all of the student needs and everything else. Tomorrow, if the New Country board decided that they did not like what the teachers have been doing, they actually can nix that contract and find all new teachers for the school, which is kind of scary too. We don't have tenure. We don't have any of that. Would you keep our doctor around if he wasn't doing his job or she wasn't doing her job? Would you keep an attorney on hand if they weren't doing what you expected them to do? So why do we keep teachers on hand when they're not doing the job that we expect them to do for children? So the at-will contract is pretty interesting. We have individual members, so we have a lot of professors who are part of EdVisions. They like the model, they like the idea. Actually, they're trying to change the whole structure of teachers at Hamline University to be an owner co-op, which I think would be wonderful if we get the first college or university to do that. We have affiliated memberships, like I had said before, and then stockholders. If you want to be a stockholder in the co-op, and this is based on Minnesota statute, it's $100 to become a stockholder. Then at the end of the year, if there's any money left over, we take the dividends and they're split up among all of the stockholders. So the first year you would more than get that amount of money back. However, most of us just say, keep the money and do something that will be of a benefit to all of the different schools. So we go ahead and do that. And then we do an annual meeting, conversation days. The board at EdVisions is made up of a representative from every school, so that we keep all of the schools having a voice in what goes on. And then patronage, people can buy into the co-op, become a member, and then they can run any services through the co-op that they want. So if we had a group of math teachers that came in and said, we want to put together this package, we want to market it to some of the large metropolitan schools that cannot get math teachers right now, they could do that, and they could do that through the co-op. If we had a group of special ed people who wanted to get together and do the same thing, they could do that. You know, right now we're looking for an autism specialist that we could work with, because we're finding just a growing number of autistic kids. Last year we had 10 in the building, which is a lot of autistic kids to have. But they're amazing, and they're wonderful, and they do great work, so it's kind of fun to have them around. Yes?
What kind of retirements or pensioning or kind of plans for after a teacher has done with their career do you have through EdVisions, or do you, or is that something individual teachers do?
The question was what kind of retirement account, etc., more or less, do we have for our teachers? We actually petitioned the state to see if we could have our teachers, even though they were not public school employees, be part of TRA, our teacher retirement, and they said yes. So all teachers are still able to get their TRA, their retirement account that's just normally built in. We, however, cannot get PERA for our aides and stuff. So for our aides, we do a 401k and just make sure that there is a retirement account set for our non-licensed staff at the school.
Are the support staff also member owners of the cooperative?
Yep, the question was, are your support staff still members of the co-op? Yes. So you can be a stockholder member, or you can just be a member. And the stockholder member means that you've invested the $100, which is not a lot. And then the rest of them are members, but they're not a voting member.
So the aides and administrative assistants are not voting members?
Unless they pay the $100 and buy into the stock, which they can do, because as long as they're committed to education, and truly we could not operate a New Country without absolute high quality support staff. Lisa saves my behind all the time. She knows what I need before I even ask for it. She really runs the school, and I tell her that all the time, which is pretty cool. So, kind of the structure on here, in Minnesota you have to have an authorizer for a charter school. And the authorizer is the one who makes sure that we keep track of finance, testing, staff development, all of the different things, and reports to the Minnesota Department of Education that we're meeting all of our goals. So they're kind of up here. The school is in the middle with no employees, and EdVisions is down on the bottom. All of the employees come out of EdVisions. However, each school then operates very independently. So at New Country, the money comes in, the budget committee or finance committee takes all of the money that's coming in, sets up a budget, tells the personnel team how much money we could possibly spend on salaries for the year. So then, if you have this like $600,000 that you're going to spend on salaries, how do you get around that? I don't view and watch people to set salaries. We sit in a big circle and you go through what is your value to the school? How long would it take to replace what you do here? What is a short-term goal you have for your students? And what's a long-term goal you have for yourself? And then we also get in parent surveys, student surveys. We have a thing that's called the Hope Study. And the Hope Study was invented for project-based schools. Well, actually, it can be done in any school. But what we found is students have a lot of hope until they hit about 9th grade. And then they level out. And then about 11th grade, they start dive bombing. And what we wanted to do was to create hope that would continue with kids. And what we have found is these kids, their hope score continues to rise. We had a gal who was doing her master's thesis at Hamline University actually follow our graduates, because we now have 16 years of graduates out the door. And she found that the hope continues to rise with those kids as they go to college. So 80% of our kids that start post-secondary actually finish post-secondary, which is pretty amazing odds. And we have kids who do not have parents who have a college or have a high school diploma, and we're still getting those kids into college. They're the first-time high school diploma winners in their families, and you know that when they graduate from college, the whole family is going to be sitting there watching that, cheering them on. So it's pretty emotional. With the kids too, the kids can select their advisor for the year. We call our teachers advisors because you truly are the guides on the side, not the sage on the stage. And as I'm a guide on the side, I have 17 kids I'm responsible for also. 6 of those kids last year were seniors. And the least amount of time I had had with those kids was 3 years. Some of those kids had been in my advisory group for 7 years. I knew those kids better than I know my own personal children, because I spent a whole lot more time with those kids. And, you know, sometimes they'd say, "Can I tell you this, Dee, because I don't dare tell my parents," you know, and it's like, "Oh, I'm a mandated reporter. Are you sure you want to do this?" And you have to tell them that sometimes, because you hear things that you really don't want to hear. But that's part of that home setting. And if they can trust you enough to do that, it's pretty amazing what happens. Services that we get from the co-op, they do all of our payroll and benefits. They do all of our HR. They do professional development. So all of the staff will be run through restorative justice training. Again, we try to do that about every 3 years. And that'll go through EdVisions. We also do auxiliary services, so instead of having to go through the Department of Ed for relicensure, you can go through EdVisions, which is a lot less scary than having to do it with the Minnesota Department of Education. But they've given us their stamp of approval on things that we're turning in. We have a professional library that people can check things out. Hopefully every school has professional development teams that are reading the latest up-to-date stuff. If you haven't read A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink, I'd highly suggest you do it. Daniel Pink talks about we don't need right-brainers anymore. And I think if you're part of a co-op, you're probably a left-brainer, because he's saying we can outsource to Asia the right brain things much cheaper than we can do them here, which is unfortunate, but it's happening all over. And he's saying what we have to do is instill in kids creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, and fun. Because he says you can't outsource those things. And empathy. Empathy was the other one that he talks about. So if you haven't read Daniel Pink, I highly suggest you do that. We also use a Project Foundry, and that's purchased through EdVisions. Project Foundry helps us keep track of kids, because if I have 17 kids, I need to know where they are, what projects they're working on, everything else. And then the Project Foundry is shared in the co-op, so I can see what kids in other schools are doing, which is pretty awesome. But Project Foundry is how they propose projects, how they keep track of their daily time logs, because every day they have to track what they did for the day. So from 9 to 10, I worked on, X, Y, and Z. And Project Foundry was actually created by adjudicated youth in Milwaukee. We had spent $1 gazillion on a thing called UnitMaker, trying to figure out how to track, 17 different kids in my advisory doing each one of them probably have 5 projects going at a time. And it was crazy trying to do that. We were approached by Danny Goldberg out of Milwaukee, and he said, I have a group of kids who I get as they can check out of jail for a few hours to work. Let's see if they can do it. So Project Foundry, how we keep track of everything, was actually created by adjudicated youth, and they have an absolute thumbs up. They did wonderful, wonderful work. And then testing, we do the NWEA and the whole study through EdVision. Every one of our schools then is democratic on the side, so you get the democratic feel out of the EdVisions, but then we move that into the school. The teachers should work as a democratic group, as well as the students should work as a democratic group. If I want to change a rule in the school, like last year, the teachers wanted to ban cell phones. Any of you have anybody you know in school where they want to ban cell phones? It's already banned. So I had to write, actually, a bill that went to Student Congress to put in place a cell phone policy. They came back to the staff and they just said, okay, how many of you have a cell phone in your pocket? And we all did. And they said, if you can have them, why should we not have them? Which made really good sense. And anyway, they said, we'll write a policy. So they wrote a policy. They can have cell phones. They can't have the ringers on. They can have them on vibrate. If they go off, they have to let a teacher know that it's gone off, and they have to stand by a desk to take the message. And in return, if my cell phone goes off in my pocket and I want to take a call, I have to go stand by a student and take the call. And that's fair. I don't have a problem with that. And sometimes my kids need to have their cell phones and use them. We have dynamic decision making. I think for the kids truly create the policies for the school. They have a student senate, anybody can be in it. Our bathrooms are falling apart, and the boys especially hang on all the dividers in the bathroom and the bathroom door. So the frame was bent on the bathroom door, and we took the bathroom door off of the boys' restroom. So the petition that we know will hear first again this year is put the door back on the boys' bathroom. And then as a staff, we'll say, well, can you raise $500 to refix the frame from when you hung on the door and it broke off? And they probably will.